The first keynote speech of our event delivered by Mr. Marian Staş.
Thank you very much. Bună dimineața. Good morning, everybody. Oh, Ukrainian friends? Slava Ukraine. Okay. First things first, as I said. Equally powerful with this message is, dear Turkish friends, my wholehearted congratulations for a splendid victory last night. It was clean, it was slick, and it led you, and I'm sure that it will lead you to the World Championship, and I wish you play at least in the quarterfinals. Now, the third one. My dear friends, actually we texted each other and said, okay, you say that, I say that, and so forth and so on, but joking apart, I am beyond and above honored and happy with the conversation that Serdal, Sinan, and Vugar and I were conducting to get here to this point, because in the beginning I was listening to them and I didn't hear them. And then suddenly I listened to them more and more and more, and then I heard what they actually wanted from this interaction and from this conversation. So thank you so very much, my new most respected friends. So, in a nutshell, I think this 10-15 seconds in the beginning and the last 15-20 seconds in the end would be the most relevant here. If I were to summarize in a nutshell the whole thing, one sentence, is the following. And while I'm speaking, please bear in mind what Vugar mentioned here with all those numbers and everything. The case for organic CPD, that's the most important subtitle here. And you will see what I mean by organic CPD, okay? So the nutshell. Speaking about curricular architectures, coming out from the communist centralized paradigm and getting into the European subsidiarity paradigm makes a huge impact on CPD. Okay? I learned that 2 days ago, and I'm going to share it with you how it happened. So basically, the process that I'm going to share here with you is how this leadership journey of 25 years led us to have the first batch of a number of schools who actually went from centralized Ministry of Education-driven planuri cadru, curricula, to school-based curricula. Okay? How did they get there? So, prerequisites. Well, to be honest, I'm not going to be hypocrite. Harvard education helps. I learned that firsthand, and there's myself more than 25 years ago when I graduated. Ca să zic așa, am fost coleg cu Maya în programul ei de master la școala Kennedy acolo. This is one of the best programs, the MPA mid-career, Master in Public Administration mid-career, and it all happened there. So again, Harvard education does matter. This is my teaching there. People friends with mathematics and physics? Not so many. Well, I was going to say that I was teaching the quantitative methods for those kinds of people there. And now, let's get down to business. Of course, it's all about framing a leadership process. It's about shifting the paradigm. So all these keywords are there. And the good news, the evidence is irrefutable, is specific, is measurable, is whatever you name it. I love it, because otherwise I wouldn't be here. Is about things happening, grassroots out there. One key leadership piece there is to draw attention on the issue. If you read Dean Williams, or if you have read it, you will see that the real leadership model there has a very first important key piece, which is called the activist challenge, as he calls it. In other words, saying, Houston, we have a problem. And of course, I'm going to share you the whole thing here. There we go. This is the thing I did. This is the thing I did back in 2012, drawing attention that curricular architecture and shift of paradigm are critical. And I instituted myself as the professor to draw attention of people, and now you can count 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I mean, more than 10 years, 12, 13 years down the road, guess what? It happened. It clicked. But that was one piece there, as I said, of framing the leadership process there. Okay. Also, one other important piece, and this is an invitation to you to always frame the strategic envelope of the process. About 12, 13 years ago, I published the book, Education and National Security. So I framed the issue under the argument that the current state of affairs here in the country poses a direct threat to the national security, because 21st century Romania, NATO, EU member state, runs with a pre-university K through 12 educational system outdated, obsolete, of communist, chromosomes, a DNA. So the most important piece was how to take it out from this centralized communist paradigm and take it into the 21st, as I said, EU subsidiarity, decentralized model. And the shift, the technical thing, the visible evidence was to get from one curriculum to school-based or school-designed curricula. That was the difference there. Of course, I have a model which I'm not going to insist on because it doesn't make sense here, but I want you to know that I know what I'm telling. So this is a thing that, beyond leadership or hand in hand with leadership here. Also, practice and working with teachers made sense at the grassroots level. These are the workshops that I ran under various auspices with schools that were interested to enter the first batch of pilot schools. Okay? And now, down to the core piece of our conversation. Based on what I did, I tested our effort against two instances. One is Notebook LM, and the other one was ChatGPT, and asked them to see what was going on there and what was the impact of transforming the school-based curriculum on CPD. And that's what I want to share with you. Remember, I said coming out from the communist paradigm and getting into the European subsidiarity explosively makes sense, doesn't make sense. It blows everything up, and will share with you the last slide, which is, I'll keep it on the screen so that you know. So, locus of control. Notebook LM told me that we are getting from ministry dictated to school-based, decentralized. Curriculum structure for fixed and uniform to student choice via school offerings. The Romanian syntax means curriculum la decizia elevilor în oferta școlii, curriculum at the decision of students from the school offering. Okay? Teacher role, from isolated lecturer to community facilitator and architect of culture. That's starting blowing my mind. That I learned 2 days ago, what happened actually there in the field. The anatomy of systemic change, incubation, agitation, and implementation. Agitation is the whole phase that prepared those schools to get into the pilot school, that offered, for the first time in the history of the country, planuri cadru, curricula designed by their own. Never in the history of this country before happened this thing. You can imagine the difference between something coming out from the central organization to the school-based designed curriculum. For example, one thing that happened, and this was a mindset that changed, and it was mind-blowing for the teachers. The two things in common, which is the common core that everybody should go through, for example, Romanian language, okay, or physical education. And then, decizia elevilor, the decision of the students, which basically states that all of us here in the room don't need to take and physics and chemistry and biology. We can choose one of them and then qualify for the science credit, for the science, training. And the ratio between them, hold on. Cum îl dau înapoi? Așa știu, am văzut. I got it. Hold on. Okay. And the ratio between the core and students' decision will shift from 60-40 in the 9th grade to 40-60 in the 12th grade, basically ensuring that students have more and more range of decision as they move through the higher grades. Evidence. Wonderful friends in a village high school basically tripled their percentage of students who graduated from the 8th grade based on the curriculum that they designed. 18% through 45%. Specific, measurable, whatever. One important high school in the country ranked the 3rd time in a row, the 1st in the baccalaureate. So it's interesting, they say elevating the bottom and elevating the top. The whole process had an impact both at the bottom level and at the top level of what we did there. Now this is cool. You want to take a picture of that or read it through, because it said the following thing. The Trojan horse. Remember the metaphor of the Trojan horse, right? Ulysses, Troya, and so forth and so on. So what happened basically with this process, allowing students to choose their curriculum, shattered the isolated lecturer model and forced teachers to collaborate, innovate, and align across disciplines. So continuous professional development moved from abstract seminars to daily survival-driven practical collaboration, which is organic, that's my point. So the moment that you design your curriculum, planurile cadru, in the school, this will happen. Now, the key sort of pieces of professional development, pedagogical innovation, collaborative teaching, interdisciplinary alignment, all these things, Notebook, LM, and ChatGPT found out that they happened through the process that we designed there. Also, specific pieces of management that shifted the whole process from correction to prevention, looking at social emotional learning, community architects that I liked. Teacher transformed from administrators into genuine mentors and architects of classroom culture. So that's my point in the beginning. The whole thing, what did was blowing up the old communist culture and instituted a new, modern, human, effective, more effective organizational culture in the schools. Outcomes. And then ask, dear ChatGPT, give me the outcomes, okay? By the way, to be professional, what I did, I tested our whole process against the EU framework on CPD. So I asked, the AI, give me the most important pieces and impact compared to what EU CPD framework tells us. So, what the pilot most clearly developed in teachers? Practice embedded CPD. Best performing CPD areas, socio-emotional learning. Scaling implication, and I'm going to show you the impact. Because I asked them, my prompt was to rank all these things, low, medium, and strong, so that I see what happened there and with what degrees of impact, upon the schools and upon CPD actually. That was my specific request. Traditional model, one-off training events to pilot school. Co-teaching, feedback, synchronized planning, facilitation routines, a whole new range of vocabulary out there, which this, process brought along. Most relevant CPD elements against the EU CPD framework. So you can see, again, I tested it to make it professionally because, otherwise I wouldn't be here unless I would have tested it very, very professionally. Collaborative teaching and live mentoring, socio-emotional specialization and facilitation, interdisciplinary curricular alignment, leadership and digital specialization with various degrees of impact. So you can see, did we have that in mind in the beginning? The answer is no. It happened naturally. That's my point. So we did not start with do that on the CPD, but things happened for 5 years, and these are the outcomes that came out. So for example, facilitation and socio-emotional learning and interdisciplinary alignment have both ranked strongly in scalability and impact and scalability. So they can be scalable at the national level. That's much better for you to have here as a summary. So you can see, evaluating CPD competencies for national rollout. Of course, I was interested because you can't pilot, 10,000 schools or 12,000 schools, but you can do it with 50, 100, 200 schools. And what happens out there? It turns out that what we did had this impact and implications on scalability. As far as those competencies who are typically CPD competencies are concerned, and again, cross my heart. We didn't have in mind in the beginning, so design something that will, answer this one. It happened naturally, organically, that's my point, with organic case for CPD, when you get from centralized communist paradigm to decentralized, school-based, school-driven, school-designed curriculum. Proof of concept to systemic scale-up. The good news, as far as the strategic process is concerned, is that last year was an inflection point, actually, with the then Minister of Education, with whom we worked tremendously effective. So the policy for the national program for systemic curricular piloting in high school was approved. So now all the high schools that want to do that can do that by order of minister. And then I'm happy to share with you that as we speak, 34 high schools in the country have designed their curricula, their planuri cadru, and now we are at the end of the evaluation process, so that in September they will start with and fingers crossed for our friends from Constanța. There is a school member of this Lumina community that also applied for this piloting thing. Thank you for your attention, and I will keep that, read it and learn it and keep it in mind by heart. The paradigm shift in Romanian education succeeded because it stopped treating teachers as mere deliverers of content and empowered them as architects of organizational culture. Is that cool or what? Is that so cool or what? Okay? By changing the structural blueprint of the curriculum, the pilot school successfully engineered a self-sustained 21st century educational system. So mission accomplished, let me put it this way. Again, from mere deliverers of content and empower them as architects of organizational culture. That's organic. CPD, my friends. That's what you want to do. Thank you. Bless you. Thank you, my friend.